Hey everybody, welcome to Procrastination. Today I'm going to show you how I made an apron out of a dress. So I have this old strapless dress. I don't really wear strapless dresses anymore, but I love this pattern and this dress style so much that I've had this dress for years and I just can't bring myself to give it away. I'm sure you guys can relate. So what I decided to do is, because I'm such a big fan of cooking and I'm a big fan of eating, I decided to convert this dress into an apron.
First things first, I needed to try on the dress so I can eye how I want the top part to be cut and get a general idea of how long to make the straps. I put on the dress and put pins in place where I wanted to cut. The bottom part was going to just be cut at the seams on the sides, but the top was more tricky because I wanted to keep that sweetheart neckline and give it a heart shape with a retro feel. Next, I did the cutting. I used fabric scissors and cut the front of the dress out along the seams. Then I folded it in half and cut along where I pinned on the top so it would be even on both sides. I cut an extra 1/4 of an inch away from the pins so I would have room to sew the seams. I pinned the edges of the fabric down and sewed a straight line along the perimeter of the top of the apron to make a nice seam. I did one side at a time, carefully sewing around the fake button on the top.
And guess who's
Always watching. Hi, Chewy. Hello. Hello, Booey. Here I pinned down the ends of the fabric evenly along the rest of the dress and stitched a straight line down the edge.
Always watching, Wazowski. Always watching.
I cut the fabric for the straps and pocket next. I could just use the extra fabric from the dress for this, but I want to make the straps contrast from the rest, so I'm going to use extra gray fabric that I have and dye it red. I started by measuring the waist of the dress because I wanted the waistband to have a few extra inches in length to hang over the sides. This is because I wanted to attach the straps to the extra fabric. Then I measured and cut out all the pieces. I ended up with one neck strap, which is 3 inches wide by 26 inches long, one waistband, 4 inches wide by 20 inches long, 2 waist straps, 4 inches wide by 20 inches long, and one piece of fabric for a pocket, 6 inches wide by 8 inches long, large enough to fit my cell phone in. For the pocket, I folded over the edges 1/4 of an inch and pinned it. For the straps and waistband pieces, I folded the fabric in half and pinned the sides together. I then stitched a straight line 1/4 of an inch from the edge of each piece of fabric. So the original plan was that I would sew along the side and then I would flip it inside out and then it would be like a nice sealed seam. And I got this advice from like a random website who also made aprons, but I realized that this just isn't gonna work for me. This is gonna be too much work than what it's worth. So I'm just going to create the straps the same way that I did for the fabric ties for my face masks. I'm going to cut out the pieces and then I'm going to fold over the sides and then sew that way. So let's try this again. I cut out new pieces of fabric for the straps. The pocket was still fine. For the next strap, I folded each side to meet in the middle and then folded it in half. Then I pinned that piece together. For the remaining 3 straps, I folded the sides in 1/4 of an inch and pinned them, then folded the piece in half, removed the original pins, and pinned the 2 sides together. Back to the sewing machine. I then sewed a straight line along all edges of the fabric, and I tried super hard to get the line straight and 1/4 of an inch from the edge.
Now with all my pieces assembled, I'm going to dye them red.
Hello, puppy. Hello, puppy. Hi. Aw, hello, my good boy.
First, I wet the fabric. I boiled water on my stove in a large pot. I then poured the dye in and mixed it well. Then I gently submerged the fabric into the dye so I wouldn't splash dye everywhere, and constantly stirred the water with my spoon for 30 minutes until I was happy with the color on my fabric. I removed the fabric from the dye bath with my spoon and rinsed out the fabric under cold water until the water ran clear. This took about 12 minutes. I washed the fabric in my washing machine and then dried it in my dryer. While I was waiting for them to finish, I cleaned my sink and the pot. When the fabric finished drying, I then ironed each piece so they were nice and flat and wrinkle-free. Now it's time to put everything together. Before sewing, I tried the apron on again to get an idea of how I wanted it to look. I overlapped the straps under the dress by about 2 inches and then pinned them. When I took the apron off, I folded it in half to make sure I symmetrically placed the straps. I pinned the straps at a slight angle instead of straight, so hopefully it wouldn't make the fabric bow on the sides. I measured about where I wanted the pocket to sit and pinned it down. Then I just eyed where I wanted the waistband to lay and pinned the top of it just above where the waistband is on the dress. I also made sure the fabric hung off either side evenly as well, because this is where I'm going to attach the straps. First, I sewed the neck straps to the dress. I used a straight stitch and sewed a rectangle on the straps to make it extra sturdy. I carefully sewed the pocket on, making sure to backstitch along the top corners a few times, just to make sure that the pocket isn't going anywhere. Then I moved to the waistband and sewed a straight line around the perimeter. I tried to go over the existing stitching of the waistband. Next, I pinned the last 2 straps to the ends of the waistband, then sewed the waist straps in a rectangle shape like I did for the neck straps. So at this point, I tried the apron on one last time, and my hunch was right, the fabric was bowing out on the sides. So to fix that, I folded a bit of the fabric over itself and used a zigzag stitch to finish. Now I'm gonna admire my work.
I've never done a project like this before, you guys. And though there are definitely things that I would do differently or change altogether, I'm really proud of the results. I'm no expert seamstress, but I'm really happy with how this came out overall. And I think it looks really cute, don't you? Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I'll see you next time. Love you, bye.